Because NASCAR Busch Series qualifying is next.
Welcome to Fontana, California. The California Speedway, a big, wide, D-shaped oval, and it's fast. And today, NASCAR's Busch Series will qualify for tomorrow's Stater Brothers 300. Speed Channel takes you California dreaming with the NASCAR Busch Series to line up for race number 2 of the 2005 season. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Fontana. Mike Joy alongside Larry McReynolds and Jeff Hammond. 48 cars are here to run for the 43 spots, and in the same situation we've seen all season long, the cars in the top 30 that ran all the races last year in last year's owner points are in the show, and everybody else has a lot of work to do. So, Larry, what kind of a week so far has it been for these Busch Series teams?
Well, even though they use this impound procedure at Daytona last week, it's been different here because it's been condensed into 2 days. These guys did not come into the racetrack until yesterday morning. They had to put all 48 of these cars through inspection, and they got 2 practice sessions last night. But the biggest thing I see is the speeds that we're seeing. Goodyear has brought a grippier tire here, grips the racetrack a lot better than the older tire. The weather conditions are good. We're seeing speeds almost faster than we did at Daytona with the Busch Series. And remember, this is only a 2-mile racetrack with less than half the banking that we had at Daytona. That track record, I think, may fall here shortly.
Good possibility. But, Jeff, with the dual agendas here, some teams setting up to race, some teams setting up to qualify because the cars are impounded right after this session, are we apt to see a surprise bonsai front row sitter?
I think a good possibility of that, Mike. I mean, a lot of the teams that I talk to, especially the guys who know they need to make these first 5 races so they can establish themselves back in the points and get a little bit of insurance as we move into the rest of the 2005 season. Yeah, they're talking about going for it and not worry about what goes on during the race. They'll just have to do the best way they can. Their crew chiefs have talked about it. We've got our work cut out in front of us, but the first 5 races as we go into the 2005 season are so important for guys who are on the outside looking in.
All right, let's go down to the qualifying line. Here's Matt Yoakum.
Mike, last year 2004 Series champion Martin Truex Jr. started on the outside of the front row for both races here at Fontana. He was 15th fastest in final practice. So, do you have a shot at the pole?
I wish I could say I did. Car's not running too good. We seem to get it good right at the end of practice on race runs, but it just wouldn't go fast on new tires. So, not real sure. See what we can do with the best Pro Chevrolet. I really feel like it's going to race good, but I'm not even sure about that yet, so we'll just have to see what happens.
Had a great race car here last year in both races, and starting the year off, Steve Burns on a great note with a top 5 at Daytona.
And, Matt, speaking of great race cars, Greg Biffle won both Busch races here last year. What is it about this place, Greg, that you like so much?
I wish I knew. It's a good racetrack for us. You know, I've always run well here. My Nextel Cup car is super fast. You know, my Duraflame car in the Busch Series here with Bruco is pretty good too. We're not sure how we're going to be in qualifying, but we think that we've got a great race car for this afternoon, and really looking forward to it.
All right, good luck, Greg. And Mike, Greg Biffle has never finished outside the top 10 in 4 Busch Series starts here.
Yeah, this is definitely one of his racetracks. As we get set to begin qualifying, Jeff Fuller from Auburn, Massachusetts, driving a Joe Nemechek car, as he has done for the last season or 2. A good qualifier. This is a car that is locked into the field, unsponsored, and is guaranteed to start later this afternoon. But like I said, Fuller has a reputation as being a strong qualifier.
Little struggle in practice, though, yesterday. He was only 44th quickest, but just remember, since he's locked into the field, very well could have been one of those teams that worked on race setup.
And Larry, one other thing I think we need to talk about, it's a little bit different this year with the Busch Series. In years past, you know, NASCAR would say, guys, you're limited like the 3 sets of tires. Now they've come with a new, you have 6 sets of tires. And a lot of the guys down there told me that when they started practicing here, they elected to use only 1 set of tires throughout the entire practice with a thought process of having 5 sets to use up in the day's race. So, again, a lot of guys maybe have a little bit faster race cars than what they've shown in practice, but because of the tires and when you block it off, you never go quite as quick on used tires with the car blocked up.
Now, to qualify, do they have to qualify on stickers?
That's the way I understood it, Mike. You got to qualify on sticker tires, and they impound them after that. But during that practice session, where normally you'd bolt on a set of tires and see how it would run, you're trying to save as many as possible for the race as Jeff completes his lap and at 41.55, 53 that is.
He's done. Fox FX and Speed Channel coverage of NASCAR continues all day long and through tomorrow. Coming up, right after Busch qualifying, switch over to FX for Nextel Cup qualifying and the Stater Brothers 300 Busch race. Then on Sunday, NASCAR this morning on Speed, get your motor running. The Auto Club 500 presented by Q on Fox. Then NASCAR Victory Lane on Speed to close out your race day. Speed Channel coverage of Busch Series qualifying from California is brought to you by Just for Men. More than a hair color, it's the Rejuvenator. Ends gray in 5 minutes. Looks natural. Jeff Fuller, 40 seconds flat. Or excuse me, Randy LaJoie, 40 flat in the Dollar General number 34, the Frank Cece car. He is a past champion, so would get into the race that way if he doesn't make it on time. But LaJoie, 40.01. Here's Matt.
Now missing from Daytona, although he was well seen at the Super Bowl, Terry Bradshaw, car owner. Now, what are you doing down here? I see Armando. He looks a little nervous over there.
No, we're getting ready to do a little time work here, see how we qualify. This is my first week. So, you know, California, it's a nice place to start.
You're excited to be back.
Yeah. Well, I laid off last week because it was too big an event, and we had just come out of the Super Bowl. I just couldn't deal with those crowds. I really wanted to go home. I'd been sick, and I was able to rest. Saw my cars do really well until they blew the engines. And then, you know, you, as an owner, you sit there and go, yeah, that's right, typical, good, fine. Here we go again.
Now, I know that the message boards, when the late Dale Earnhardt shaved off his mustache, went crazy. Then when Hammond shaved off his mustache,
Hammond shaved his off, didn't he?
He shaved his off. Now, but what happened to yours?
I shaved mine off in a commercial spot. Mine was for money. Uh-oh.
And right now you're on the pole.
That's it. That's us. We're the pole guys. Fedewa, number 12.
The Michigander.
Yeah, it's good. Got Fedewa running today. Hot Tamales is going. Janet King, Serlin, kind of cool. He'll qualify, I think, 39 today. He comes out. So it's fun. I think we got a good deal.
Hey, Matt,
guys sitting in there.
Hey,
Yes,
Matt.
yes, go ahead, Larry.
Tell Terry congratulations because he talked the entire qualifying run of Tim Fedewa.
By the way, congratulations. Larry says you talked the entire qualifying run of Timmy Fedewa.
That's good. See the kind of luck I bring my boys when I'm here.
See, you need to come more often.
Great year. I'm here every week.
I don't see you every week.
Well, I'm here. You ignore me every week.
Get
out of here.
I don't ignore you.
The supercar and I stopped you.
Thanks, TB.
Matt, you're not going to win that one.
That's
Tim
a battle he will lose.
Fedewa was fast, 39.26, 183 miles an hour for the Hot Tamales car. He was 16th at Daytona.
And Larry, you kind of brought it up. You know, don't be surprised you don't see his speeds come up. Now, from practice, he picked up over 4 tenths. So, again, makes you wonder what a lot of these guys are holding. And here comes Kevin Harvick.
Well, we talked about the track record. This is the track record holder here, Kevin Harvick. He set that record 2 years ago at a 39.14. Fedewa is only 1/10 off of that.
There's Kevin Harvick's finishes at his home track. With that one pole, a track record.
Had a great run at Daytona last week in the Busch Series race. Finished second to the car that he owned. That owns the 33 car that Tony Stewart is also driving here. Be qualifying a little later.
So you could say he finished first and second.
Pretty good day.
Pretty much had the bases covered.
Well, now wait a minute. Delana, his wife owns that car. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get that straight.
You know, if he was lucky, he may have got a thank you from her.
Maybe.
Maybe.
He was pretty quick in practice earlier. He was 8th quickest yesterday at a 39.55, and he picks it up, and that is he just blew his own track record into the water. 38.95, almost 185 miles per hour, and remember, that's average.
A new track record for Kevin Harvick. He is on the pole over Tim Fedowa, Randy LaJoie, and Jeff Fuller.
And I think we will see what's going on here a lot. Kevin Harvick shuts it down. Remember, it's the fastest of 2 laps. We talked earlier about the softer tire construction that Goodyear has brought here. And when you have a softer tire, your quickest lap for the most part will be on your first lap.
Yeah, a lot of times that we talk about the second lap, how you pick up. You're trying to get heat in those tires with this new compound. It comes up real quick, so you get a lot of grip on the first lap. And one other thing, guys, we need to kind of like keep an eye on, being that this qualifying session is on Saturday morning, and we're going to be racing in just a few hours here on Saturday afternoon, you've also got to be very careful when you go out around this racetrack that you don't make a mistake, because you don't have any time to go back and grab you a backup car and get ready to go racing. It would be disastrous if you wreck a car in practice.
David Stremme in the Navy Dodge.
You think we ought to get Terry Bradshaw back on and be talking about this qualifying?
No.
No?
You're not going to win a war of words with Terry Bradshaw, but a battle of wits?
It'd be a good battle between DW and Terry. Pretty good battle. In both categories.
They both unarmed? I mean, what?
In wit and words.
Oh, stop it.
Whoa. Darrell, I did not say that. Bradshaw, I did not say that. Was Larry Mack.
Stremme got his first Busch Series pole in 2004 at Milwaukee and scored a career best finish of 2nd there.
Of course, this is Tim Fedowa's teammate. Brand new race car. This is one of the few teams, most everyone elected to come out here and do a West Coast test. 2 days at Las Vegas, 2 days here. This team was not really ready. They did take this car to Atlanta and test it for about a half a day. And remember, this Fitz-Bradshaw organization made the swap from Chevrolet to Dodges over the winter.
What's that on the nose? Says Pac Flit. What was that, Pacific Fleet? I can only guess.
I would think so.
That or I don't know, maybe Bradshaw spelled it.
Maybe one of those, yeah, Pac Fleet.
It's got to be Pacific Fleet.
Yep.
Okay.
39.53, that's 3rd quickest on his first lap. That's about a half a second pickup from yesterday's final practice. When you have these new tires and you're in qualifying trim here, even though most of these cars are on race setup, this racetrack is so smooth, it has a fair amount of grip. You barely crack the throttle here, Jeff, in the corners on a qualifying run.
No, that's the thing about this type of racetrack is, can your driver hold his breath and how long? And he picked up also right
How
there.
about this? He tied his teammate to the exact 1,000th of a second.
Equally prepared, I'd say.
Welcome back to Fontana, California, Busch Pole qualifying. John Hayden, one of our go or go home cars, his first lap is 40.70. He's going to have to pick it up from that. Matt Yoakum, I think you are with the man that right now holds the new track record for the Busch cars here.
Larry Mack. Kevin Harvick is hoping the sun stays out and heats up the track even more. Congratulations, great lap.
It was a good lap. Reese's Chevrolet has been good since we unloaded. Clint Boyer did a good job out here testing, but you know, we knew the car we set it up for race runs and knew it was pretty good, and just went out and held her down, and it stuck. So it was a good lap.
Real quick, how do you feel? I saw you get out of the car very slow.
I'm really sore. Still a little bit beat up. Just got some damaged cartilage and stuff in the front. But doctor says it won't hurt anything if I hit anything else. So I'm either not very smart or just listening to the doctor. I don't know, one or the other.
Just don't hit anything else. Let's go to Steve Burns.
Hey, thanks a lot, Matt. With Tony Stewart, who got his first Busch Series win at Daytona and had a spectacular speed weeks. Tony, you finished 2nd here a year ago. How good is this race car here?
It's really good. I mean, for a car that's brand new and never been tested, Butch Hilton and all the guys here, you know, at Kevin Harvick Racing, they did a great job getting this thing prepared. And with the format the way it is now, I mean, we did all race stuff yesterday, obviously, like everybody else is doing, and the car is driving pretty good right now. We think the car is really, really good in long runs, so it may not have the speed up front, may not have the speed to put us on the pole today, but this Old Spice car is a car that I think, as the day goes on and the race goes on, it's going to be a car that's going to be at the front of the day.
Good luck, Tony.
Thanks, bud.
Thanks, Steve. Curtis Davis in the 0 car is on the track right now. Now, he's one of the cars that's guaranteed a spot in the field, celebrating a birthday today. Curtis is 24 years old, and speaking of birthdays, we certainly want to remember Davey Allison, who I worked with, great competitor, would have celebrated his 44th birthday this past week.
Car's putting out an awful lot of water there, Larry. I know that, and if everything goes well, you know, Curtis and his crew will be able to add some water back to that engine, but you always got to be a little bit concerned about overheating a race engine this close. As we continue, he comes off of turn 2, the car's really putting out a lot of steam, and whether or not you're going to damage that engine before we go into the race today. So to me, that'd make me a little bit anxious watching him, knowing he's already in the race, getting that engine that hot.
Yeah, for a car that knows he's in the race, as you see right there, he has an awfully lot of tape on the front end, which is restricting the airflow to the radiator, and he's doing both laps. So you figure that's, with the warm-up lap and all, that's about 2 minutes out there.
It really is. You see, again, he's putting out a lot of steam out of that race car. And the other thing, you see that car kind of bobble a little bit, Larry? I'm just wondering maybe if some of that, some water is getting back there on that right rear tire, maybe making that car a little bit loose.
That's a lot of water that he is putting out right there. You can see it trailing behind his car.
Not a good sign. But I believe Steve Burns has got some information for him on down pit road. Steve.
Hey, Jeff, at the top of the show, we talked about how much Greg Biffle likes this racetrack. Well, how about Matt Kenseth, the 3-time winner here? And, Matt, how is this race car here this weekend?
It's pretty good. It's the same one we had last year. Last year we ran out of gas about 5 laps ago leading, so I think it's pretty good. I don't know how great we'll qualify. I think we'll qualify pretty good, but I think it'll race better.
All right, thanks a lot, Matt.
Next up, Ashton Lewis Jr., the Team Marines, number 25. Best start of 10th here. This car won, or this team rather, won the pole here in 2001. Matt?
David Stremme didn't test here, Mike. His teammate Tim Fidoa did. But when you climbed out of your car, you walked around and looked at the front valence. Why? Was it bottoming out?
Yeah, it's quite a bit different from when we were practicing. Both laps, it was sitting there jumping around and scraping on the track, and made for an interesting ride for me. But the Navy Dodge is running pretty good. We did a lot of race runs yesterday with the new tire rule NASCAR's implied, but we just shot off, did a qualifying run. I'm pretty happy with that. If it just puts us closer in front, I'll be pretty excited about later on this evening.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
And I think the reason his car bottomed out is he ran 3/4 of a second faster than he ran in practice. Obviously, you're entering the corner, the car's traveling more. That's the reason it was bottoming out, is the speed that he picked up from yesterday.
Ashton Lewis is the first Ford to run 39.57. That puts him 4th overall behind Harvick's Chevy and the 2 Dodges.
A lot of smiles on all the Ford teams here at Fontana this week. We talked about it at Daytona last week, as this is the first time that the Roush Yates engine package has not only been in the Cup cars as it was last year, but also in the Busch cars and the Truck Series. And this is the first week for the new cylinder head, and all of them felt so good about the amount of power that it was going to give them. They didn't get to test with the new package, but they all have it here for the most part.
Second lap for Lewis is quicker by 11/100ths of a second, but still he stands 4th on the board. There go a little griddle cakes a la guardrail. Citizens of NASCAR Nation. Monday through Thursday, Speed Channel presents a new NASCAR show. On All Access Pass to the hottest sport in the country, declare your citizenship to NASCAR Nation Monday through Thursday at 7.
Looks like those guys right there have already signed up, Mike.
Say,
ready for an exciting day.
Derek Cope, 8th out of 10. Now his number 28 does have a spot in the field. That's the J. Robinson Racing for the Sun Microsystems on the car, and AMD. A little high tech. Not allowed into the hood, of course, but okay on the quarter panel. 94 Series champ David Green now comes out in his Ralph's Supermarkets Kleenex Ford. Let's go back down to the pit road.
Carl Edwards had a good run at Daytona last week, sitting on the point for a while, leading the race, and then this is your first Busch Series start at California. How comfortable do you feel here, Carl?
Well, I feel pretty comfortable here. Brad Parrott and the rest of the charter team, you know, they won both of them last year, and I've got a lot to live up to here, but the car's running great. The guys in the engine shop got this new engine running really well, and you know, I think it's going to be a great race for us.
Back upstairs.
Thanks, Steve.
You know, Jeff, I was talking to David Green here in the 27 car, his crew chief yesterday, Stuart Cooper, new crew chief for this year. And Stuart said the biggest adjustment that they've been trying to make in the swap from Chevrolets to Fords, we've been talking about tape on the front end. He said last year with the Chevrolet, after being with it for several years, they knew what to expect, what the balance change in the car was going to be with tape on the nose. He said it's been substantially different, the balance change with the Ford, than it was a Chevrolet, and he said that's been the biggest thing they've been having to learn.
I can believe that right there, Larry. And you know very well that even though NASCAR tries to make all these cars very, very similar, as we watched David, he pretty much one and done. He wound up second quickest right now at the end of that first lap. But you always have to relearn what a car likes, what their tendencies are, the characteristics. And that's always a big challenge, whether you're a veteran team or a rookie team, of understanding what you need to do to your race car. As we take a look at what's going on with the Monte Carlo grill and the way they've got it taped up, and I believe right there we're looking at
the Deuce.
The Deuce right there.
Clint Boyer.
Clint Boyer's car.
Well, the learning curve for David Green's team must not have been too steep, because they are the second car today to break the previous track record.
That's what happens when you've got a veteran. And David's always shown me that he's able to dig a little deeper when it comes time to qualify and put down a pretty, a really incredible lap or put himself in the pole. He's good at qualifying.
And just remember, you know, we have three makes here. We have Dodge, we have Ford, we have Chevrolet, and as in Nextel Cup, the greenhouse areas, we watched Tony Stewart in a 33 car, winner from Daytona, start his qualifying run. But the greenhouse area, all the windows, the deck lid length and size, they're the same on all the makes, but the difference comes in the nose and the tail section.
He's back. Tony Stewart running a limited Busch Series schedule, which so far has included 2 for 2. This is the Old Spice Chevrolet. It'll be Tony's 43rd career Busch Series start. Last week he led 46 laps, including the last 3, and gave Kevin Harvick a win in his first race as Busch Series car owner.
You know, when we heard from Tony earlier today about he didn't know if he'd have a very fast car when it come time for qualifying, but in talking to Butch Hilton, both these guys are speaking on the same page, because they are saying that once this car,
I think he demolished his owner's track record.
Told us a little bit of a white lie, because they really believe this car was going to be bad fast when it comes race time. But look at what it's come time for qualifying.
Well, you might think they would play it safe, because Tony has to qualify on time. He is not guaranteed a spot in the field, and of course there are no provisionals, but they went for all of it.
Did you see how smooth that car was around the racetrack, though, Mike? I mean, he just arced it off down in the corner. It hung around that bottom just like you'd want for it to. It never bobbled. He picked the throttle back up, and the end results, well, look, 185, almost 186 miles an hour qualifying speed.
Yeah, I mean, this is not like Bristol or Martinsville. This is a wide racetrack, and if you have a good driving, good handling car, as Tony Stewart appears to have, it's hard maybe to even be conservative at a racetrack like this. But almost 186 miles per hour in this car, like Kevin Harvick, who's on the outside pole, has those Richard Childress Racing engines under the hood.
Matt Kenseth next up. Best start of second here. 3 wins, 6 top 5 finishes. In 8 starts, average finish of 6th. That is pretty high up the board.
And he's attempting to make his first Busch Series start of 2005. Who would have ever believed we would have a Busch race that Matt Kenseth in the 17 car showed up at, and he would not be in the show. Missed the show last week at Daytona. But he was awfully quick in practice, 4th quickest at a 39.42, which is about what Tony Stewart ran in practice. Let's see what Matt can do.
It's going to be one and done. He's shut it off already, and he's solid with a 39.25, 4th quickest.
I'd say this little 17 car be pretty tough this afternoon.
Yeah, I still think he is probably one of the best drivers in both divisions when it comes to knowing how to work on his race car in the course of the race and tune it and work it to whatever kind of track conditions there are.
No, he was glad to get out of Daytona, not only missing the Busch Series race, but had an engine failure quite early in the Daytona 500 on Sunday.
We'll mention that Kim Crosby did not make it to the line for her qualifying attempt, and the 5-minute clock expired. They had not been excused from their position by NASCAR. Kim backed the Boudreaux's butt pace Chevy into the wall pretty hard in yesterday's practice, so apparently they were not able to complete repairs in time to qualify today. And she'll be one of the 5 drivers headed home. Justin Labonte started 8th at Daytona in the Coast Guard Chevy, finished 18th. One of 6 drivers who got their first Busch Series win last season. And last week, you know, it was, where's Terry? Well, this week he's here. He's going to run the Cup race.
Yeah, he said he was had a pretty good time sitting at home watching the race, and I thought maybe it would be a little bit kind of disappointing for him, but no, he had a big grin on his face yesterday when I asked him about how things were, and he said, hey, it was all good. I turned my computer on along with that, sat there and really enjoyed watching the 500.
I heard him say as he started watching all those crashes and things getting a little wild at the end of the Daytona 500, he was real glad to be sitting at home watching it.
Yeah, I think the last time Terry got to watch the 500 on TV, Ken Squire, David Hobbs, and Brock Yates did the telecast.
I just want to say right now, Justin Labonte is up there in 4th quickest right now. Big pickup from practice. His quickest lap up to them was a 40.66, so big step up right there by that young man. But I tell you right now, Larry, he just keeps on amazing me because he's so quiet. And you don't think he's really doing a whole lot, but when it comes time to get it done, he gets the job done.
Almost sounds like the apple didn't roll too far from the tree.
Exactly.
4th fastest.
Yeah, but 39 flat.
4th fastest for Justin Labonte, behind Tony Stewart, Kevin Harvick, and David Green. Here's a look at the top 10 so far here in Fontana, with a bunch of drivers breaking the prior track record, make that 4 of them. Shane Hall in the Jimmy Means Ford, 40.56 for the driver out of South Carolina. Now he is one of those who has to make the field on time. There are 22 drivers that must qualify. 2 of those are eligible for the past champions provisional, though, Randy LaJoie and Joe Nemechek. The new track record holder for at least the moment is with Matt.
New track record holder, Mike, by almost 2/10, Tony Stewart. Big lap.
Yeah, it was an awesome lap. This Old Spice car is just really, really good. This car didn't get to come test, and it's a brand new race car. So, you know, Butch and the guys here, they're doing an awesome job here for Kevin Harvick Inc.
Now, this team is going to run for the Car Owners Championship, but I don't see your car owner around here anywhere.
Yeah, actually, we've been posting up signs here. He's kind of missing. So if you've seen our missing Busch car owner, you know, if found, please return him to the 33 Busch team to us as soon as possible. You know, we're worried about him, especially after we knocked him off the pole so far today.
And who's going to run this car in Mexico?
Not me. I think Kevin is, actually. If we find him in time, if we can find him from the missing side, Kevin's going to drive this car in Mexico.
Okay, so if anybody has seen this young man probably about 1985, please bring him back to the 33 Busch team. They want to make sure he's going to run Mexico City.
Yeah, fortunately, that's not going to make America's Most Wanted.
Where did they dig that up? That's what I want to know.
They've been on it for about 2 days now, and they're not letting it lie down.
Carl Edwards in the Charter Communications Ford, 39.22, flirting with the prior track record, 5th fastest.
He had a pretty good start to 2005, finishing 10th at Daytona.
Fastest in the first practice yesterday, and has 2 top 10s in 2 truck races here. Ooh.
Car's wiggling around. Of course, this will be his 2nd lap, and as we were talking earlier, you tend to believe that the more you run, even from lap 1 to lap 2, this little softer construction tire, that it starts losing grip.
Here's Steve.
Mike, was Shane Meal, who was also very fast in practice yesterday, and Shane, Tony Stewart just put a big number up on the board, broke a track record. Do you have a legitimate shot at the pole?
I think so. The Winfield Chevrolet is fast enough. I mean, yesterday when it was midday, we ran an 18 or something like that, and really was just riding around. That was our first one. So if there's any chance we're going to get a pole, it'll be today, and we're going to go try our best.
Good luck, Shane.
Thanks.
Shane ran a 39.18 mentioned a while ago, the fastest in practice. So he picks up that half a second like we've been seeing everyone pick up. He could be a contender for this pole.
Clint Boyer from Kansas, driving the AC Delco #2. Started 6th and finished 12th at Daytona. He had 7 top 10s last year in 17 starts.
He ran a Winston West Series race here last year, actually finished 2nd, led that race for a lot, and lost 3rd gear on the very last restart. I think Kenny Schrader ended up winning that race. He's using up all the racetrack coming off
really
turn 2. You mentioned his finish at Daytona. Pretty impressed. I was talking to Richard Childress earlier this morning, his car owner, and pretty impressed what a smart race he ran. And he actually had much better than a 12th place car, and they had problems getting into their pit box, and he almost had problems getting off turn 4 on his qualifying run.
He scraped it?
He used every bit of it up.
I think he's got a scrape behind the right rear wheel.
Good lap, though,
opening.
39.09. That's 5th quickest for Clint. I believe as much as that car was sliding around on lap 1, I think maybe he
needs to bring it onto the house.
I believe he will.
Bring it onto the house right there. And,
yeah.
You know, you talk about Richard Childress right there. I think it's pretty impressive. He went out and picked this young man up who was, in 2002, he was one of the Midwest region champions in a NASCAR Weekly Series racing division. So good to see these young guys coming back up through the Busch ranks.
Clint Boyer is the 5th driver today to break the old track record. Welcome back to Fontana. Stanton Barrett Jr. It's a home race for him. He's from Southern California. And he takes that Tucson Chevrolet to a lap of 39.93, which right now is third among the drivers that have to time their way in.
Yeah, he's had his hands full all week long. They've had a lot of oil leaks on this car. Yesterday he crashed one car in practice, so he's had a tough weekend so far.
I mean, that's the thing. Even though everybody's trying to qualify as fast as they can, start as far up to the front as they can, qualifying's almost like a race within a race. These 22 guys are trying to out-qualify each other.
Steve?
And Mike, the all-time winningest driver in NASCAR Busch Series history, is getting strapped into his car. And Mark, I heard you say yesterday in practice you were pretty pleased with this race car and the effort of the team.
Well, you know, this car's brand new, no testing. We've got about 15, 20 laps yesterday, but they were all good. So I think we'll, as we work with this car, we'll find what it likes, but it's starting off on a really good foot. This car, Pennzoil car's fast, and I'm tickled to death to be working with these guys.
Remember, he is a go or go home car. He has to be fast with it.
Paul Menard qualified 4th at Daytona, led 37 laps, had the strongest car for much of the day in that 300-miler, ended up 17th as he looks to make his 35th Busch Series start.
Yeah, he was kind of the Tony Stewart of the Busch race. Led a lot of laps. Again, did a lot of that leading and passing without any help. He was up at the top of the racetrack by himself and just got shuffled back there at the end.
Guys, I don't think he's going to be very happy with that lap right there, because that only puts him like in 4th position on guys who need to make this race, and I really expect him to run a little bit quicker than what he's doing right now.
Yeah, because he was 12th quickest in practice yesterday at a 39.73, so he is about the only car we've seen so far that has actually slowed down.
So again, the way this works, the top 30 in car owner points from 2004, provided they ran or attempted to run all the races, are locked into the field. So that's 26 cars. That leaves 16 positions available to time trial in. There are 22 cars looking for those 16 spots. Plus, the final spot in the field goes to either the most recent past champion not yet qualified, or they go back to the speed chart to fill that 43rd position. So what this essentially means is 5 cars are going home.
He may have saved himself on that second lap because he picked it up to a 39.96, and it appears, just looking after 18, 19 cars, that you're going to have to run in the 39s to definitely be safe.
But he slowed down 2 tenths from where he practiced it, so I know he's not going to be happy with that, but a guy I think is going to be pretty happy with his lap, standing by with our map.
Jeff, they've already covered up Clint Boyer's Blue Deuce. Now, I saw you knock the decal off. How hard did you hit?
Oh, it's just about enough to touch the decal. She's covered up. You can't see it. No, it was a good lap for us. Car's really good in race trim. Happy about that. Just hoping to stay in the top 10 somewhere, and I think we'll race my way back up the front. Got a lot of talent up there with the Nextel Cup guys being in there, but the guys put a good car under me. The AC Delco car is going good, so everything's all right.
Thanks, bud. Martin Truex Jr. next up, started 2005 with a 4th place finish in Daytona, California. This race 1 year ago, one of his, actually both races, he started outside pole here last year among his 16 front row starts.
But as you heard in his interview, they have struggled, and I think has a lot to do with this tire package. We've been talking about all these cars that has broke the old track record. The reason is this is a much softer tire package. Now, they didn't have any aero changes like the Cup cars. The rear spoiler is the same size, but this team has really had a tough time latching on to the setup this car is looking for with the new package.
Truex also breaks the prior track record with a lap of 39.01. He is 4th. Sunday night, 9 p.m. Tunnelheads rejoice. Dave is back. All new show, all new night, all new guests. This Sunday night, Elio Castroneves, 2-time Indy 500 winner and IROC racer. And my hero growing up as a boy, as a race fan, Dan Gurney, will be on with Dave tomorrow night right here on Speed. Guess I better change my flight because I don't want to miss that.
Hey guys, Shane Mill in this 32 car, we heard him in his interview a little while ago. He came close, second quickest at a 38.91. Another car that breaks the track record. DEI engines under that car, and now Mr. Busch Series is out there qualifying. Mark Martin in the 9 car.
He really had a strong Daytona run. I mean, IROC win, was very competitive, I think, all week long. Even though he had that problem in the Thursday's race, his team really rebounded and showed to me a lot of character.
Whoa! Character. Second quickest, 38.84 for Mark, and he'll shut her down.
And we're not even at Markingham this week.
No.
How about that?
Good lap.
Well, he is not the only bushwhacker from out of the Ford camp to make a rare Busch Series appearance. Here's Steve.
Dale Jarrett making his first appearance in 5 years in the Busch Series and an 11-time winner. How does it feel to be back in a Busch Series car, Dale? Good to see you back, by the way.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. These guys have done a great job, Rick Wren and his people, and with the car. I'm having fun so far. A little bit more pressure here qualifying like this, but I kind of like that atmosphere. And got a great sponsor with City Financial. So I'm looking forward to this. Hopefully there's some things that we can learn in today's race that will benefit us tomorrow, too, in the UPS Ford.
Hey, Steve, I heard that last Sunday, we don't get to see the commercials in the Daytona 500, but is he really going to race the truck?
I'll ask him. Mike Joy wants to know, are you really going to race the truck?
Looks like we're headed that way. I guess we kind of opened that door last week with the new commercials, so not exactly sure when that's going to happen, but looks like we may have one of those UPS package cars out here on the track one day.
What kind of wind tunnel numbers does that thing get?
Yeah, we've got another commercial coming out. It'll show a little bit about that. We've got a little bit of work to do in that area.
You got to love it, though, when a plan comes together.
It's been a long time coming, but it looks like it's here.
Tony Stewart, Mark Martin, Shane Meal, Kevin Harvick, David Green, Martin Truex face qualifying so far for this afternoon's Busch race in Fontana. Here's Johnny Sauter in the yellow freight Dodge #1. Qualified 10th at Daytona, but had engine trouble after 33 laps. This team's going to Mexico next week with not one but 2 cars.
Yeah, I think
Boris
said will drive one, and of course Johnny will drive the other. See a lot of smoke on this car, and that first lap for Johnny was 39.98. This team struggled so much yesterday. I talked to Tony Liberati, the crew chief. Jeff, the car, you heard David Strimmy talking a while ago about his car bottoming out. This car was bottoming out so bad that it just about on the first run out in practice rubbed the tread off of the tire. They spent almost the entire afternoon just trying to get some clearance on this car where it wouldn't bottom out on the racetrack, and the fenders rubbing the tires rubbing the top of the fenders.
And again, what that does right there for a driver is just drives him crazy because he doesn't know how hard to drive it off in the corner. When you have those kind of problems, that's not a good way to start out. But right now, he's currently 17th after his first lap, but was good enough for a 39.983.
One of the few teams that did not test out here, and I think they paid the price yesterday in practice.
Looks like it. Here's Matt.
Justin Labonte still holding station in the top 10. Now, how important was your test sessions here in Las Vegas in getting that good qualifying run?
It helped out a lot. We learned a lot at both tracks, and came back here, and we were pretty close off the truck, and that's what, you know, it really helps with the limited amount of practice and impound and everything. I think we really got a good setup for the Coast Guard Chevy, and I'm excited about the race. This kind of reminds me of short track days and stuff, qualifying and race the same day, so it's pretty cool.
And Mike, longtime PR representative Dick Conway told me if you go back to 1979, he's done the stats, that if Terry Labonte makes the race later today, his Nextel Cup car, the number 44, it'll be the first time they've had Labontes in both a Busch and Cup race in the 44 on the same weekend.
A lot of tire smoke here from Reed Sorensen.
That is a lot of tire smoke. I think the track has so much grip this morning versus yesterday's practice. The cars are running so much faster, as we talked earlier. A lot more speed entering the corner here, so the car travels a lot more. Even with this track being smooth, you see a lot of tire rub off the right front of Reed Sorensen's car.
I hope he can really feel that, Larry, because like you pointed out earlier, it can be real dangerous when you're rubbing the right front that hard going off the corner at these kind of speeds. So hopefully his first lap will be good enough. Third quickest, shut it down.
I was trying to do the math off what Matt said, and even though Bobby Labonte ran a whole lot of Busch races in the number 44, I guess at that time Terry must have been running the number 5.
Something else.
Or something.
Yep. And the other thing I want to point out right quick as we look at the 41 car with that tire rub, Larry, you got to be careful because you're supposed to start the race on the tires you qualify on.
Can't work on anything. Can't beat the fenders. You got what you got, partner.
Exactly right.
And that's another driver who had to time his way in, and he did so in fine fashion. If you like the NASCAR Busch Series, you'll love NBS 24/7, Mondays at 9:30 Eastern on Speed.
That's a cool show. It really
it is.
Enjoy watching that.
Kevin Conway in the Totally Against Graffiti. Chevrolet finishes up his qualifying run. And what's interesting about this qualifying procedure is you don't get bumped out of the field, but you can bump your way in because the 5 slowest drivers who are not guaranteed a spot are out. And right now the outs are Kim Crosby, John Hayden, Shane Hall, this man Kevin Conway, and Brent Sherman. So Conway's run effectively bumped Paul Menard into the race. Folks, by the time we get halfway through the season, you're going to understand it all, I'm sure. Here's Steve.
Mike, with Casey Kane not in the 38 car, he was last week sharing the ride with Tyler Walker, and you said you're bored.
Yeah, you're bored with the new schedule. All we do is 2 laps today in the Cup car, so I wish I was driving, but I think Tyler did a real good job for Great Clips and Aikens Motorsports, and I'm just trying to help out as much as I can to make sure he goes fast.
Thanks, Casey.
All right.
Mike, when you were describing how this thing works in reverse, when we watch Dale Jarrett making his return to the Busch ranks, I got to thinking, Larry, back a lot of times when we start a race, what do? We run it in reverse. So maybe that's the reason why we're doing qualifying this way now.
That seems to be the way it's working.
So DJ brings a new sponsor to the NASCAR Busch Series, City Financial it is, and he'll make his 325th start in the series. First one since September 99 at Darlington. Now that's 325th Busch Series start since 1982 when they started to call this the Busch Series. It seems that all the records of the late model Sportsman Series prior to that have been swept aside. So Dale's run a whole lot more races than that. That's really where he cut his teeth, was on the short tracks of late model Sportsman, which became the Busch Series in '82. How'd he do? Quite well. He's the 3rd fastest Ford with a 39.12.
And this is a Robert Yates Busch Series team that they're going to run a limited schedule. In fact, Elliott Sadler will run at Mexico next week and also at Las Vegas.
11 wins in the NASCAR Busch Series for Dale Jarrett, who currently is 10th. John Wood out of Stewart, Virginia in the Clorox Solo Cups number 47. Locking into the field 15th, 39.357. And again, let's remind you that these top 30, in this case 26 teams that are locked into the race based on their car owner points from 2004, that locks them into the starting field but does not give them a starting position. The starting lineup is based completely on qualifying speeds until you get down to the point in the lineup where you've got to lock those top 30 teams in. Back down at 43rd position.
And Mike, what we need to add, because we know that over the winter it was advertised as the top 30 in owner points from 2004, but the criteria was you had to participate or at least attempt to qualify for all of the Busch Series events last year, and there was only 26 teams that did that.
Right. Got a problem there with the number 18 at J.J. Yaley. Jeff, he's got a lot of smoke from the tires and sparks underneath.
What's going on, Mike? He's got that soft play set up. It's good enough for second quickest right now at a 38.76, but that car is really dragging the racetrack and rubbing those fenders, so they're counting a whole lot on opening that front grill area to get that nose up off the racetrack and hopefully not rub like he's doing right now during the race.
Well, it didn't slow him down. He is second fastest. Let's go to the garage and Matt.
Mike, a lot of congestion down here in the garage area because teams will not know where they will be pitting on pit road during the race until qualifying is over. That's when teams will make their selections based on qualifying. So what the teams are doing so they don't lose time, they're all setting up their pit boxes back here in the NASCAR Busch Series garage, gluing up the lug nuts, getting things ready. So as soon as they know the stall where they will be pitting in just a few hours, then they can roll their tires out there, their pit boxes, set up their hoses. But teams trying to make every use of every minute they can of getting things ready for a little bit later on today in the Busch race.
Yeah, and I'm glad Matt really pointed that out because, Larry, you know yourself, as we look down pit road, it's basically a no man's land. And normally on race day, the teams come out early in the morning and start setting up their pit areas, getting everything kind of laid out, like the tires where they want it to go, positioning the pit boxes, laying out all the air wrenches and the jacks. So it's really going to put an added load on all these teams to get ready for today's race.
So where Casey Kane, who drove this car last year that Tyler Walker's in, said, I'm bored, I got nothing to do today, but, you know, just run 2 laps. Maybe he could help some of those pit guys because, boy, they got a lot to do and a short time to do it in.
Wait a minute, Mike. He's a driver.
Jeff, last year I saw him in his Durango coming down Brawley School Road calling a show car. So got a little time on his hands, but he's not afraid to pitch in and help out.
Well, undoubtedly, he's not been talking to some of these other guys that I know that drive race cars, right, Larry?
Exactly. Not any that I worked with.
That's right.
Tyler Walker going to make his 4th Busch Series start today. A best qualifying effort of 8th at Pikes Peak. And he's driven Casey Kane's USAC Silver Crown car for the last season with 3 victories, and he is 12th at a 39.14.
And he never raced here. They didn't do a test here, so that's a good run for Tyler Walker to end up 12th quickest right now.
Here's Steve.
With Michael Waltrip, that's the most unique helmet I have ever seen, Michael Waltrip.
That's the corn dog man. Look at him. He's squirting his mustard and ketchup everywhere. This is a cool helmet. This is a cool car. It's got a wrap on it right now, Steve. I think it's an Aaron's car under here, and it might be a Domino's car somewhere. We got lots of great sponsors, and appreciate them having fun with the Busch program.
So it's a dream machine, it's a hot dog man, it's a pizza car, all that.
Yeah, we'll deliver you some pizzas, bring you some hot dogs, or rent you some furniture. Hey, congratulations to Steve Park last night. How fun was that to see Steve bring it all the way back and win right here at California Speedway? I'm real proud of you, buddy, and looking forward to racing later on this afternoon, this little hot rod.
I got a plan for DW. Yeah. Maybe instead of asking to drive the Dream Machine, he just needs to ask to drive the corn dog car.
Are you trying to say a hot dog driving a hot dog car?
You said that. You said that.
You beat us both to it. Steve Grissom, 1993 champion in the Busch Series. He's run 3 Cup and 1 truck race here at California. Started 40th in the 2nd race here last year.
There's something not exactly right with that car at first lap. Way off the pace, 41.83.
The engine didn't sound very sharp to me when it came by, and it just makes me wonder something may be amiss on that 49 car.
And he's another of, there are several drivers who have run basically appearance laps locked into the field, and hopefully whatever that trouble is, they can get squared away. Fox, FX, and Speed's coverage of NASCAR continues later today. Nextel Cup qualifying follows us immediately over on FX. Stay on FX for the Busch Series race at 5:30 Eastern Time. Tomorrow, here on Speed, NASCAR this morning. Then the Auto Club 500 presented by Q is on Fox. Coverage begins at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Then back here for NASCAR Victory Lane on Speed. Big weekend of racing across all of the Fox networks.
You know, the fans may be asking at home, and we tried to talk about this all during Speed Weeks, why is NASCAR making these changes? Why are they taking the practice out between qualifying and the race? Not only in the Busch Series, they're doing it across the board in Busch at all 35 races this year, and at about 22 or 23 of the Nextel Cup events, including here at Fontana. Talking with NASCAR, John Darby, Joe Balish with the Busch Series, the short-term plan is to try to save the owners some money with tire usage, with the money that was being spent on lubricants, motor oil, for qualifying. The long-range plan, and they accomplished a little bit of this here at the Busch Series at Fontana, is to take days that these teams spend away from home. And they were able to do that even out here. Normally the Busch Series teams checks in here on Thursday. Well, they didn't check in until yesterday morning. So there's a couple of plans going on, the reason that they are doing this.
Take a little while for all that to take effect, but it's on the way. Here's Jamie McMurray, who won 3 races in 14 starts last season. He's got a new car owner yet again this year. His number 64 Top Flight car, 39.19. That is 13th quickest.
Good run for him.
Here's Matt.
And J.J. Yaley telling Jason Ratcliffe, his crew chief, now you said you had a little bit left, but he's very happy that you're second.
Yeah, you know, just before I went out there, I knew it was going to take a pretty good lap to beat Tony. And, you know, I ran pretty close to flat when we tested here in the Home Depot Figaro car. And just, you know, we're one of the guys have to race in on time, so I didn't want to go out there and cost us anything. So I went out there, made a good lap. The thing handled great. And, you know, I know I left a little bit out there. Probably could run flat, but, you know, we're going to start, right now we're second, and we're going to start near the front. That's going to be good.
And you'll be glad when the 5 races are over, the first 5.
Yes, sir. 3 to go.
To Steve.
Matt, 22-year-old Boston Reed was just 7 years old when Jeff Gordon watched him race and win for the first time. Now you've got big shoes to fill. You're in a Hendrick Motorsports Chevy replacing Kyle Busch, who was second in points a year ago.
Man, it's going to be so awesome. I'm so excited to get to run out here in California and to get to follow someone like Kyle.
Boston excuses. Trouble on the racetrack. We'll be right back with you.
Yeah, Denny Hamlin out of Chesterfield, Virginia. In the Joe Gibbs number 20, the Rockwell Automation car. Car got away from it.
And guys, we talked about it. You go out and qualify like this, you got to line these cars up and get ready to go racing here. And he's already got in the wall, and that's not going to be good for this 20 car.
Now they're in the race, Larry. You know, they'll there are no provisionals.
Denny, just bring it on in after you take that white.
So he will start 42nd, assuming no other cars have problems in qualifying. But now I guess since these cars are supposed to be impounded, we'll have to take a look at what will be allowed to be done to that car. First, let's try and figure out what happened.
This was over in the middle of turn 2. You see the car, he was on the throttle, probably already wide open, and the car wiggled with him, and he kept almost correcting it, and it just finally came around with him, and he kissed the outside wall.
Yeah, and from that viewpoint right there, Larry, almost the way the car went up the racetrack makes me think maybe it bottomed out. It got down in there and actually bottomed out, and when it did, it shot him up the racetrack. You see tire smoke. I think it shot him up the racetrack, and he got out of control and into the wall he went. He did a pretty good job of just keeping it off the wall, not hitting any harder than what he did.
Things happen fast.
Mike, right there, you can hear him. He was gassing really hard and all of a sudden on the brakes really hard. So he was really in there driving it as hard as he could all the way to the wall.
Well, remember watching his teammate J.J. Yaley in the 18 car and talked to him in an interview about how his car was bottoming out, and you could see the 18 car, and so you tend to believe this one maybe was going through the same thing there.
Yeah, when J.J. said we left a little out there, I wonder if he was talking about metal and rubber, because that car was really down in the racetrack. When we come back, we'll try to fill you in on what they'll be able to do to repair this car for the race later today. Fontana Busch Series qualifying. Michael Waltrip is on track in what he calls the corn dog car, the State Fair Chevrolet. He has 15 career Busch Series poles. And talking about the number 20 team, the intent of the rule would be, Michael way up the racetrack as well. Is that in the same spot, Jeff? Or?
Same area right there, Mike. But again, with the way these guys are driving the race cars and everything, I'm just wondering if they're bottoming out and getting themselves in trouble. Michael's first lap was good enough for a 19th quickest right now, but looks like he said, that was enough, guys. I'm coming to the house.
And Michael's in. He has to time in, but he has beat more than 5 cars. We're going to fill you in more on the 20 car, but first, that spin interrupted Steve Burns.
And Mike, they're pushing Boston Reed up. He's just about to get going. Boston, as we were talking, your emotions filling in or replacing Kyle Busch rather in this car for many races this year.
It's unbelievable to get to drive a car for Mr. Hendrick. I mean, you see the guys that drove before, and then to get that opportunity, it's going to be cool. So hopefully we can go out here and represent Hendrick Motorsports well and see what we can do with this low Chevy.
All right, 4 different drivers will drive this number 5 car this year, Mike.
Thanks, Steve. Now, here's the update from NASCAR on what can be done to the number 20 car. If the damage is too bad to repair, they go to a backup car and they start in the back. If the damage is repairable, even though the intent and the statement of the rule is that the cars are impounded after qualifying until the race, but if the car has apparent damage and it is repairable, NASCAR will let them pull the car off the line, and they will let them make repairs prior to the race. They forfeit their starting position, which, as we said, is 42nd. So there's really no loss to the team to having to go back to the garage and make repairs on this car to get it ready to race.
Yeah, the only way he would have forfeited a starting position is if that had happened on his 2nd lap, and he already had a lap in the books. Yeah, it's going to be dead last anyhow.
Michel Jourdain from Mexico City, whose hometown race is next week on Fox. He's driving for PPC Racing, going to run the whole series in the Busch Series in this Telcel Ford. Let's check with Matt.
Jason Ratcliffe came over from the 18th. Trip Bruce, the crew chief for Denny Hamlin, just gave him a big hug. So what's the status on the race car, Trip?
You know, it's not that bad. It's a little sheet metal damage on the right rear. The spoiler and all still in the same spot it used to be. That's important. We'll get the side flattened back out. I'd much rather do this than go into a backup right now. We're going to start at the back, but this is too good of a car to park it right now. We're not done yet.
Mike McLaughlin, the test driver for Gibbs, looking at the back of the race car. You can see a lot of the team members from the 18 of J.J. Yaley over trying to help this team out, get this race car fixed for today's race.
Yeah, now McLaughlin's under there not because he's the test driver, but he's also one of the best fabricators in racing as well.
You see him right there in the dark blue sweatshirt.
Yep.
And one reason, you heard Trip Bruce say they know this is a good car. This team won a race last year with Mike Bliss at Lowe's Motor Speedway. This is the race car they won that race with.
Meanwhile, Michel Jourdain is in the race, the Mexico City driver who stepped away from the Champ Car Series to come here and run in NASCAR in Busch with Ford backing. He is 21st overall. He will race this afternoon.
I'm going to say also, don't forget, Mike, he's a new daddy. He and his wife, Nora, had their little one last Sunday, Michelle the third.
That's right. Terrific.
So great. Congratulations to them.
So he should have made it home for the birth of the baby.
That's what it sounds like.
Racing on Saturday.
Jason Keller, who was, as we noted last week, moved over from PPC Racing to Renzi Racing, carrying the McDonald's colors. Ed Renzi, Ed and Sam are brothers. They're partners in this team, and Ed, a former executive with the hamburger chain. So McDonald's comes into the Busch Series as a full-time sponsor. Jason finished in 6th place in the series last year after 2 seconds, a third, and a 5th. 10 Busch Series wins and 11 poles. Let's see what he can do with the McDonald's Ford, 22nd on his first lap.
Now, we've ran 9 Busch Series races here at Fontana, and Jason Keller is the only Busch Series driver to start on 9 of those races, and he has done that without any DNFs. He's been running at the end of all 9 races.
Now, the going home list has not changed, and once again with this new procedure, once you're out, you can get bumped back in by a car that runs slower. And right now, the going home cars, as Keller's a little quicker on his second lap, doesn't move him up the board. He's still 21st. Going home would be Kim Crosby, John Hayden, Shane Hall, Kevin Conway, and Brent Sherman. Everyone faster than that. Brent Sherman in 25th. Everybody faster than that is locked into a position. Locked into the field, not locked into a position. But the drivers I just named can be bumped into the field by a car that runs slower than Sherman's 39.97.
We need to mention Matt Yoakum was talking to J.J. Yaley and his crew chief a while ago, Jason Ratcliffe, about the 5 races. Well, basically what that means is when we go to race 6, it reverts to the current points as they are. The first 5 races is based on the owner points, how 2004 ended.
Boston Reed has 3 starts in this series. He made his debut last September at Richmond. He's 22 years old from Logansport, Indiana, and like many of the young drivers coming into NASCAR today, cut his teeth in sprint cars. 2002 Sprint Car Rookie of the Year in USAC. He's been driving sprinters since he was 15 years old. Raced the last 2 seasons in Silver Crown with 4 ARCA and 3 Busch Series starts. He won at Eldora at age 20. That's a big accomplishment for a young driver.
I would say so. And it's interesting you mentioned his background, because he had a quote earlier this week. Someone asked him, in all the testing he's been doing in the races last year, what's the biggest adjustment that he's had to somewhat adhere to? And it's the fact that these stock cars have 4 equal width tires. And I guess in open wheel racing on asphalt, they have a wider right side tire. And he said that is a total different feel that he's had to adjust to.
Well, Larry, talking about feels, he just got a good experience or good lesson down there in turn 1 and 2 when he drove it off in the corner a little bit deeper, I think, than what he anticipated, and the car just about got away from him. He had his hands full, but did a good job keeping it off the wall.
So what Boston does on that first lap, not a great lap, 28th quickest at a 40.07.
But the car was all over the racetrack, Larry, and
it really was.
This lap, if it's smoother, should be faster.
He looked a lot better through there, but he really backed off a lot more, Mike, going into that corner that time. It makes me wonder right now, it looks like he's going to complete that second lap, but again, it looked like he just overdrove the corner. And Larry, at this racetrack, you know, it's real easy to do. Go in too hard, and all of a sudden the racetrack, when the car doesn't stick, and up the racetrack you go.
That's not a happy car.
Not at all. Not at all.
What driver was it that said a long time ago when asked about advice, drive it down in there and don't lift until you see Elvis? And that looks like what Boston Reed did.
He definitely was better on that second lap, 39.73. Now remember, Adrian Fernandez will drive this car at the road race in Mexico, and we will be on with Fox with that race on Sunday. And his crew chief, Jim Long, they took him to VIR, a road course up in Virginia, to test him. Said it did not take Adrian long to figure this stock car stuff out.
No, he's going to be good down there in Mexico City next week. Steve?
Mike, you talked about Mike McLaughlin being a talented fabricator. Rapal Wolf was a fabricator at Joe Gibbs Racing for years while knocking on the door to get a chance to drive, and beat out several drivers in a program last year with Tommy Baldwin. Paul, how excited are you to be in this 6 car with Ray Evernham?
Well, it's just a great opportunity, you know, to be part of the Hungry Drivers program and be chosen to come back for this ride with Evernham Motorsports this year. Just a great opportunity for a guy like myself, and hopefully here soon you'll stop calling me a fabricator and maybe a race car driver.
Did you guys get a copy on that up here?
Yeah, but it's you know, great to be multi-talented.
That's the thing is right now, I like a man who can do a little bit of everything as well as drive a race car. But, you know, I think he's trying to make a statement and say, hey, I belong in the driving ranks now. And it's my kind of like, I'll revert back to that in my latter days when I decide to retire.
Sterling Marlin in the Jana King number 40, teammate to David Stremme, who is right now 16th, and Tim Fedowa, who is 17th. 2 teammates have identical times. Let's see if Marlin can run a 39.266 to tie his teammates. No, he messed it up. He messed it up by exactly 1/100th of a second. 2.76 instead of 2.66.
Oh my God! All 3 of those cars, I'll have to say, guys, are equally prepared.
That's incredible.
Sterling trying to rebound from having a good run at Daytona, but had an engine failure last week.
And he's another one of those drivers who used to be a mechanic. Can you believe that?
Don't you call him no mechanic.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
Here's a look at the top 10 so far in NASCAR Busch Series qualifying at the California Speedway. And 11 of those drivers have broken the prior track record. The 11th being Dale Jarrett.
What's interesting right there, the top 4 were part of our go or go home guys. They had to qualify for this race. They not only qualified, they're up to the top of the chart.
Ryan Hemphill, the 23-year-old from Apollo, Pennsylvania, who started 32nd and finished 36th in his series debut last week, ended up in a crash coming off turn 2 at Daytona. He is in the show 31st with a lap of 40.29.
So I got a question for you, Larry. You mentioned those guys had to time their way in. Do you think out of any of those 4 guys that they, any or all of them, as we look at Paul Wolf on the racetrack, have they got qualifying setups underneath there to make sure they get in this race, or do they have solid race setups?
I'll be willing to bet, regardless of what they have, when I look at those 4 names, I bet they all race pretty sporty this afternoon.
I'm along with you on that little assessment right there, my friend.
Here's Milford, New York's Paul Wolf, driving a Ray Evernham Dodge. Comes out of go-karts and out of the Busch North Series.
And Mike, did you hear when that car was going off in the corner? Did you hear it scraping the racetrack? I hear it ticking the racetrack as it went off in the corner. Bop, 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 bop. So again, car is bottom out, the front nose skirt is down on the racetrack.
Jeff, you can do that for 2 laps, but you can't do that for 300 miles.
But when you untake the car, it's going to change the balance quite a bit.
Good point.
The speeds will slow down.
Yep.
Cars start sliding around more, so the air pressure builds up. A lot of things will get it up off the racetrack.
And we haven't talked a little bit about some of the adjustments the teams will be able to make, a little bit around the front, wedge in the rear of the car, as well as the shocks. So if they've got some shocks that kind of hold the car down, they can release that and let the nose come up a little bit, Mike. So they can redirect the balance in between now and this afternoon when the car does start the race, just a little bit.
They can't physically change the shock. Paul Wolf ends up 19th, and he's going to do one and done. But these shocks, most of them are adjustable. NASCAR will allow them to adjust those shocks when they're back at the height sticks.
Now Wolf has to race his way in. That leaves 3 drivers left to time in. Joe Nemechek, Eric Jones, and the 43 car, which has gone through a succession of drivers this week. We'll get to that in a moment. But right now, Paul Menard, 27th, is locked in. Brent Sherman right now is out. Sherman can get bumped into the field if one of those 3 cars I mentioned goes slower than his 39.97.
So you know what he's doing right now, Mike. He's down there hoping that somebody will be just a little bit slower than he is so he can get in this race today.
Wishing and hoping. The number 23 team has Vassarette as a sponsor. They make ladies' clothing, undergarments, if you will. And so the driver pool for that car is somewhat limited. Shauna Robinson found herself in this car less than a week before having to go to Daytona. A driver they were negotiating with turned down the opportunity. Shauna got the call. She's in the car. She's going to run the whole season and thrilled about it.
Definitely thrilled about it. And she's one of the cars that's already guaranteed a spot. So what she needs to do right now is just put out a real solid lap, keep her car safe, and get ready to go this afternoon.
And she's trying to make her first Busch Series start here, and will make it this afternoon. But she did qualify for a Nextel Cup race here 2 or 3 years ago, driving for the 49, the BAM team.
And, of course, nobody says undergarments anymore. I guess the proper term is lingerie.
Lingerie,
right.
Okay. 40.04, 31st quickest. Respectable qualifying run for Shauna.
Yeah.
Good effort.
Especially if they've got a race package underneath the car rather than a qualifying setup, because they're guaranteed in.
And let's point out this here also. In practice, she was at a 42.024. Picks up right at 2 seconds in her qualifying effort. That's pretty respectable, guys.
Well, and as you pointed out, Mike, not only did she get this ride at a late notice, I think everything kind of came together at a late notice for this race team as well. She may very well pick it up possibly on this second lap. Picks it up a little bit, the 30th quickest, 40 flat. And that, might add, that's right at 180 miles per hour average.
Now again, looking at the 5 slowest drivers, one of those is Randy LaJoie, who comes across, well, he'll be 31st right at the moment. And even though LaJoie is in one of the bump out spots, as a past champion, he would take the 43rd starting spot. So up next, Greg Biffle in the number 66 Duraflame Ford. 4 races here, 2 wins back to back last year.
And I look for him to be awfully tough in his Nextel Cup car here this weekend as well. He was fast in practice yesterday. I know he tested the Busch and the Nextel Cup car here in January, and everybody pretty much said the man to beat in both divisions was going to be Greg Biffle. His type of a racetrack.
He has led more laps than anyone here in the Busch Series.
And as you were talking earlier, Greg Biffle has no problem not lifting until he sees Elvis.
You're right.
He is definitely one of the more determined drivers right now in both divisions. I mean, when he comes getting up on that wheel, he can get the job done.
I like the play on words on his hood, log on. That's not on your computer screen, that's log on the fire. Sure.
Yeah, it even confused us at Daytona because everybody thought this was Rusty Wallace's car, that he owned this car with this sponsor, this number, this color scheme. But basically, this sponsor moved over to Bruco Motorsports, and actually, Greg's going to run a limited schedule. This team will run the full schedule, but this is one of the Bruco teams from last year.
And with those race wraps they have now, he probably could have just taken all the decals with them from Rusty's team.
That is a way of life.
Except that blue oval on the nose.
Areas.
Let's go back. Greg Biffle is 20th. Now here is Joe Nemechek in the number 87, the Cintas uniform Chevrolet. 18 poles in the series, best start of 4th. Now, because the number 87 did not run all the races last year, Nemechek has to race his way into the field. And let's see, is it he or LaJoie that would get the past champions if neither one of them is quick? LaJoie is the most recent past champion. I don't think it's going to be an issue.
He was awfully quick yesterday.
Yeah.
He was 3rd quickest in practice.
Unless something happens here, Joe Nemechek will have no problem qualifying for this race. The question is just how far up will he be when the stopwatch stops time.
The point would be if he's not faster than 39.97, he would go home. LaJoie would get the champion's position.
You know, it was as early as this morning, there was no sponsor on the quarter panels of these cars. Cintas decided to put their name on the quarter panel, sponsor Joe for the Fontana race here just this morning.
Good lap.
Solid lap. 13th quickest, 39.15. Picked up about 3/10, probably not as much as he would have liked to from practice, but quite a pickup from yesterday. And looks like Joe's may run this 2nd lap.
Being that he is the owner, he can make a determination just how hard he wants to drive this race car, because he realizes if it gets away from him, he's the guy that's got to foot the bill to pay for it.
Well, he's here to win, not for the points, and knows well the closer to the front you start, better pit you get, and the better chance you have to finish at the front, and that's where the tall end of the payoff window is.
God, he picked it up 2/10 to 7th quickest, 38.96.
I was getting ready to say, Mike, I believe he was listening to you.
Yeah.
Obviously, the owner made the right decision.
Exactly.
Welcome back to California Speedway. Eric Jones with 7 NASCAR Busch Series starts is on the speedway. He's on his 2nd lap. He needs to find about 2/10 to get into the field. Otherwise, he will bump Brent Sherman into the field. Sherman right now the fastest of the 5 drivers who are on the go home list. As the Red Cactus Salsa Chevrolet comes by to try to get in the show. Did he do it?
No,
he did not.
Down on that 2nd lap. He picked up quite a bit from what he practiced, but it just not enough.
So Jones bumps Brent Sherman into the race. Matt.
Well, the Old Spice team has dodged a lot of bullets, and Butch Hilton Only a few more cars left, and you were worried about the 18.
Yeah, the 18 was very, very good. I think if he'd have got a little more fender clearance, he might have beat us there. It was probably acting like a break, but JJ did a great job driving that, and I think Tony's helped him a lot. So it's neat to see two friends up there on the front row.
What about this team, the way it's all come together in racing for the Car Owners Championship with a few different drivers? I guess 4 now?
Yeah, it's all up to the guys. Them guys have worked so hard all winter long. Kevin put this deal together late in the year last year, and they've just worked and worked and worked, and everything we've asked them to do, they've done it and done more, and I just can't be more proud of them.
Now, Ron Hornaday will be in the car next week at Mexico City, and tell me a little bit about the paint scheme. I understand it's very, and I stress the word very, bright.
Yeah, it's one of our best sponsors, Yardman. We really, really appreciate him coming on and helping us this year, and it's very bright yellow and very bright green, so you won't miss Ron on the racetrack next week.
Mike, I understand that if you think that Menard's car is a bright yellow, you haven't seen anything yet.
Well, if it's going to be brighter than Hornaday's motor coach, that's going to be something.
That'll be real bright, won't it?
Eric Norris, the 39-year-old Hollywood stuntman and former NASCAR Winston West champion, who won the West race here in 2002 from the pole and also has 2 Truck Series starts. He's in the Pray for Our Troops Chevrolet, and he needs to get by Eric Jones at a 40-16. If he's going to make this race, he's got to beat 40-16.
I think the other thing to remember, this is also the son of actor Chuck Norris. I think the other thing that's on this car, the little orange oval you see at the bottom of the quarter panel, it's promoting Chuck Norris's book, Against All Odds, My Story. And I guess all of Chuck's proceeds from the sale of this book goes towards his Kickstart program, which is a program to build strong moral values in children through martial arts.
Well, Larry, I'm mistaken. This is one of the top 26 guaranteed cars on owners' points from last year. So Norris is in the show, and he clocks in at 40.07. So either way, he would make the race. But right now, he's 34th quickest, and he's in. Right now, the going homers are Eric Jones, Kevin Conway, Shane Hall, John Hayden, and Kim Crosby. There is only one driver left to go that's on the go or go home list. So the bubble car right now really is Eric Jones, who right now is out but could be in if the 43 doesn't run quicker than that 40.16.
He slowed down on his second lap, but from practice yesterday, Eric has picked up almost a full second.
So he will race this afternoon in the Stater Brothers 300 that you'll see on FX later on today. 3 cars to go. Kenny Wallace, mystery driver number 43, and Stacy Compton. So as Kenny comes out in the Stacker 2 Ford, he's finished second in the standings, and he's been 8 times in the series top 10. Here's Kenny on his run, and thanks to Kenny for helping us out on speed in the IROC race last Friday at Daytona.
Kenny was 21st quickest in our practice session late yesterday afternoon.
Started 30th, finished 37th at Daytona.
Kenny driving a Ford this year, same sponsor, a little different number. See a lot of those Ford ovals up there in the top 10 or 12. 2 or 3 of them, unlike at Daytona in qualifying a little over a week ago. Saw some sparks coming out from behind Kenny's car. These guys, that we talked about it earlier, this racetrack is so smooth. You kind of get.
Tell me my time, quick.
And what Kenny was telling his crew chief there, tell me my time. I'm going to make the decision then. Do I want to run this second lap?
It's decent, 39.15. He is 14th. And did he shut it down?
He's still on it right now, but right now, as you say, Mike, he's 14th quickest. Not seeing a lot of cars pick up that second lap.
No, he's playing 2.
You know, this is a good wide racetrack, so if you just have a decent qualifying run, even though you want to start as far up near the front as you can pass at this racetrack. We talked about pit selection. These pit boxes are big. I don't know that there's a bad pit box here, bad pit selection.
Kenny's time actually fell off 55 100ths on the second lap. So his first lap will be the lap of record 14th fastest. 2 drivers left to qualify, the 43 car and Stacy Compton. And Larry, tell us about the drama of the 43 car this week.
And it has been that, because when they unloaded yesterday morning, they unloaded with A.J. Fike is the driver. Now, he had a great qualifying run at Daytona last week, qualified 16th. But they were in a tough spot. Inspection time was so long yesterday, this team completely missed the first practice. So they got out only in 1 practice, and AJ just never got up to speed. So they went over and they got Scott Wimmer out of the Nextel Cup garage to come over, and Scott actually got a decent speed in and was looking forward maybe to racing the car. His Nextel Cup sponsor, Caterpillar, said, no, we do not want him driving a Busch car. So last night, late last night, they talked to Robbie Gordon about driving this car. Robbie was excited, said, that's great. Well, this is a Dodge. Robbie Gordon drives a Chevrolet. Chevrolet said, no, you are not driving a Dodge product. So about 11 o'clock last night, they were basically down to trying to find someone that could fit the seat in the car. So they went and found Tracy Hines, who competed in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race last night. And Tracy is making his first laps in these cars right now to qualify.
Now, ordinarily, NASCAR wouldn't allow a driver just to come in and hop in for qualifying without having practiced the car. But since Hines did race on this track last night in a NASCAR National Touring Series event, he was allowed to qualify. And this Tracy Hines is in the show. And that means that Eric Jones, Kevin Conway, Shane Hall, John Hayden, and Kim Crosby go home.
And you know what? That's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive for this race team, and that's very impressive for Tracy Hines, because he did not get that many laps in that Truck Series race last night. I think he lost an engine very early, so he may indeed run quicker on his second lap, because when he drove off pit road, that's the first time he'd been in this car.
39.44 the first lap, 25th quickest. Lap 2 for Hines is just about 15 or just about 2/10 slower.
But with what this team has been through, I guarantee you they probably feel about as good as Tony Stewart feels right now.
So the Channel Lock Dodge is in the show and will start 25th.
And remember, Tracy Hines was part of that Hungry Drivers program last year with Tommy Ball Racing that Paul Wolf is actually driving this year.
And that's the Curb Agajanian car. Both Mike Curb, who's a former lieutenant governor of this state, and Gary Agajanian, California natives. So we come to the last car. He's had to wait all day to do it, but Stacy Compton from Grit, Virginia, in the Kingsford Charcoal Ford. Started 35th and finished 23rd at Daytona. Ran in the top 20 good part of the day in this Ford. This will be his, let's see, 4, 7, 10, 11th start here. 4 Busch races, 3 Cup, and 3 truck races at this track.
They have that car down on the ground. A lot of tire smoke. And again, where these tires are rubbing, it's not on the wheel opening there around the edge. It's up in the top of the fenders because the cars are traveling so far. But Stacy had a great run here a year ago, finished 3rd. There was a little bit of fuel mileage, as we always see in both races here, but had a great run a year ago in this 59 car. See what Stacy can do on lap 1. 39.41, 25th quickest.
That's right about even, 6/100ths off of what his teammate John Wood qualified.
That's about a second pickup from Stacy, and he's going to shut it down.
So the front 4 cars are all cars that had to time their way in. And the front row, Tony Stewart and J.J. Yaley. Stewart with a new track record, and Yaley his best ever start for a couple of ex-open wheelers. That's how they'll line up this afternoon. We'll be right back. Speed Channel coverage of NASCAR Busch Series pole qualifying from California Speedway, brought to you by Win Fuel. It's all about winning. And by Aquavelva. Aquavelva keeps your face toned and fit. There's something about an Aquavelva man. Steve Burns with our pole sitter and new track record holder.
And it's his 3rd career Busch Series pole. Tony, if you believe in momentum, you've got off to quite a start at the beginning of this 2005 season in the Busch car and the Cup car.
Yeah, we really have, both everybody here at the Home Depot team and everybody at Kevin Harvick Enterprises over there.
Did you find Kevin, by the way?
No, he's still missing right now, so, you know, probably the real car owner, probably Delane, will be over there to get the pictures taken here, so I know she will probably be here for that, but you know, just excited. I mean, everybody on the Old Spice team, they did such a good job getting this car. Like we said before, this car didn't come test. It was a brand new car, and these guys really, really worked hard yesterday getting it driving the way it was. And to be honest, we didn't think it was going to run real fast on the front of a run, but the car seems to be strongest toward the end of a run. So hopefully with the speed it showed here in qualifying, maybe we'll have a good car for the whole day.
Tony, you've said in years past, if we could just get off to a better start, you know, not dig ourselves out of a hole, you know, we'd be in good shape for that championship. But it seems like I keep going back to that word momentum. Things seem so positive for you right now and your race teams.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's working hard, you know, on both sides. On the Busch side, they're doing a great job. On the Cup side, these guys, I don't think there's a team that's working harder than my Home Depot team right now to get us off to a good start. So just excited about 05 here. I mean, really, you know, like you said, I mean, everything that happened at Daytona was positive. Everything so far here at California is positive. So, you know, hopefully we can carry the momentum from qualifying on the Busch side over to the Cup side here real quick.
Thanks, Tony. Good luck today.
Thank you.
Here's your Win Fuel winning edge fastest lap. Look how smooth that car looks.
Down on the ground, hugging that white line, doing everything it should do for Tony. It backed it up on the stopwatch.
185.941 miles an hour, a new track record for Tony Stewart. More after this. Welcome back to California Speedway. 2 Chevys, a Ford, and a Dodge will start in the front 4 spots in this afternoon's Busch Series race on FX. Last man to lock into the field is with Matt.
Mike, typically you hope for a late draw in qualifying because as the day wears on, it usually gets cooler, but a late draw here, you can feel the temperature.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it was a good run for the Kingsford Ford. These guys did a lot of work. We never made a complete lap yesterday without hitting the racetrack, so we didn't know what we had. Picked up about a second, and if we could have had an early draw, I think would have been a lot better. This place traditionally will slow down a bunch, and I think it's about 17 degrees difference from the time they started until we qualified. But we'll take it. We got a good race car.
Now, a lot of changes with not only your team, but also your teammate, a new teammate with John Wood, new crew chiefs. A lot of changes going on over the wintertime.
It is, and all changes. I mean, I'm really excited about the people we got in place now. Ford's giving us a ton of support. Of course, the new heads with Robert Yates and Roush Motors are they're going to make a big difference. We're all excited about it this weekend, and I think it's going to show up when the race starts.
Good luck later today.
Thanks a lot.
Stacey Compton qualifies 25th here at Fontana.
Thanks, Matt. Larry, what's really going to be interesting is with 4 cars that had to time their way in the front 4 spots, will those 4 cars race as well as they qualified, or will some of the drivers who maybe worked more toward qualifying setups prevail over some of those that had more of qualifying type setups?
Well, I think I look at those guys, and there are a lot of the same guys that had to qualify their way into Daytona. I know Daytona's different, but it's the same guys that we saw running up front at Daytona. I just believe those guys will be there. But the thing that I'm impressed with that 33 team is, remember, they have a smorgasbord of drivers going on this year. But they're already, I know it's a long way to Homestead, Miami in November, but they're already making a statement as the 21 Richard Childress team did 2 years ago to win this Owners Championship. And you know who the crew chief was for that 21 team? Butch Hilton, who's the crew chief of this 33 team. You know who one of the drivers were that drove that car? Kevin Harvick, that owns that 33 team. They've made a statement. Yeah, we maybe don't have a shot at a drivers championship, but we want to sit at part of that head table as an owners champion.
Coming up at the top of the hour over on FX, all those cars you just saw for Nextel Cup qualifying. That's next over on FX, followed immediately on FX by the Busch Series race. So then get all your chores done tonight so you can tune into NASCAR this morning on Speed. Tomorrow, the Auto Club 500 presented by Q on Fox, and then NASCAR Victory Lane back here on Speed Channel. So Stewart and Yaley, the front row, Martin and Sorensen, Reed Sorensen, the rookie, row 2, Shane Meal and Kevin Harvick in the 3rd row, Joe Nemechek, David Green, Martin Truex, Justin Labonte, the top 10 the way the NASCAR Busch Series will line up in just a couple of hours. So, Larry, now we got this impound deal. You've got, what, an hour and a half to get everything ready to race, get all your pit equipment loaded up and locked up and ready to go. And I mean, you got a lot to do. You have very little time to do it,
and
especially these guys.
This is a group that has a lot to do right here. Again, Denny Hamlin's crew, the 20 car, hit the wall over in turn 2 qualifying. Right now, they are at the NASCAR trailer picking their pits by how they qualified. So, yeah, the scramble will be on pit road. Mike, 12 cars broke the track record. I know the track temperature is coming up. I believe I'd tune in to see how many cars in Nextel Cup qualifying on FX can break the track record.
You bet. Here's a look at the top 10 that I just read you for this afternoon's Stater Brothers 300. As Larry mentioned, 12 cars down through Dale Jarrett broke the old track record of Kevin Harvick here.
If I'd keep an eye on that man on row 9, Matt Kenseth. He knows how to win at this place, and I believe he will be a factor.
So they're getting ready to race in the NASCAR Busch Series. You'll see it on FX. It'll go a little faster than this. We can only hope.
Real fast.
All right, everybody. Either stay tuned for more motorsports action here on Speed or switch over to FX for Nextel Cup qualifying. That is coming up next over on our Fox Cable Network partner, FX. It's all NASCAR all weekend long across the Fox networks. For Matt Yoakum and Steve Burns, Jeff Hammond, and Larry McReynolds, I'm Mike Joy. Thanks for joining us, and congratulations to Tony Stewart on his Busch pole and new track record in the NASCAR Busch Series here in California.